From Caterpillars to Butterflies, episode 25, How to Be Powerful.
Welcome to the From Caterpillars to Butterflies Personal Growth Podcast. Just like the caterpillar is destined to become a butterfly, you too are designed for a beautiful transformation. This is where you go to grow and transform your life. And now, here's your host, Certified Life Coach, Charlene Dior.
Hey, this is Charlene, your host of the From Caterpillars to Butterflies Personal Growth Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. It is always an honor and a privilege to have you. And today I'm talking about power. I'm talking about how to be powerful. So I went to an event a few weeks ago with Courtney Sanders of Think and Grow Chick, and she was talking about how to be a powerhouse. I was on a Facebook Live by Renee Lamb, and she was talking about power poses. So there's kind of been a lot of talk about power lately in my life. And so I wanted to give my take on exactly what it takes to be powerful in your life. So the first principle that I have is know who you are. You have to know who you are in order to be powerful. You'll never be powerful being someone else. You'll never be powerful living out of alignment with the truth of who you are. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you stand for, what you believe in, what you value, and then build your whole life around that truth. Because you can't be powerful if you believe one thing and you're doing another thing. You have to know who you are. You have to know what your strengths and what your gifts are. You can't be powerful if you're leading with something that's a weakness for you. Like your powerful self can't show up. So when you know your strengths and you hone those and you lead with your strengths and your gifts, then you can operate in your power. It's super simple and I talk about it all the time, but knowing yourself is really the most powerful thing that you can do. And so if you don't know really who you are, what you really believe in, what you're good at, what your gifts are, what your purpose is, the biggest thing that you could do for yourself to help yourself be more powerful is to rediscover who you really are and lead your life from that place. Know who you are. The second principle is to have good character. You can't be powerful if you have bad character, right? That's just the truth of it. And I could give so many examples, but think about people who have looked quote unquote powerful, who have also had bad character. It never serves them well. You know, we've seen big companies fail, like Enron, right? Because someone somewhere in that organization had bad character. And so even this powerful business became nothing, was deduced to nothing, right? Because of bad character. So if you don't have good character, good morals, it's very hard to be powerful. You can create the illusion of being powerful, but you can't truly and authentically be powerful and sustain powerfulness long term with poor character. So check your character at the door. What does that mean? It means being honest. It means not misleading people. It means following through on what you say that you're going to do. It means looking out for the best interests of people. It means putting their needs above your needs. Like have good character. And if you don't, you're going to have a really hard time being powerful. The third principle is to be authentic. And it kind of goes with number one. Like when you know who you are, then now it's your responsibility to take the truth of who you are and bring that person to the forefront. You can't be authentic living someone else's life, or you can't be powerful living someone else's life. You can't be powerful if you are diminishing the truth of who you are and you're trying to adopt on some other type of persona or personality. Be authentic. I saw a quote recently. There was a marketing conference and it said, don't be clever, be authentic. Don't be clever, be authentic. Cleverness doesn't help you market yourself or your business. Clever, one definition says superficially skillful or witty. Superficial, clever, trying to be clever leads you to come off as superficial. You don't want to do that. Being superficial isn't powerful. I met a woman several years ago. I've been going to personal growth events for some time now, and I met her at an event here in Houston. And so after that, we were around the same age. We're both single. We were trying to build a friendship. But every time I talked to her or hung out with her, she was always trying to get me to go to some event with Landmark Forum, which is another personal growth development company. But it was always so conniving and superficial, right? Like she would sometimes call me from like a private number. So not even from her number. She would call me from another number. I could sometimes hear other people in the background, like someone's coaching her on what to say to me. Now, look, we're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to be building a friendship around a like interest, but I didn't give you my phone number so that you can pitch me and someone can coach you through what you have presented as a catching up, hey girl, how's it doing call, right? And one time she invited me to an event at Landmark, and the way that she positioned it was as if the event was for her, that she was being honored. And so I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go show support, learn something about this thing that she keeps on pitching to me, and then I can leave when I get ready to leave. And so I show up. But the event isn't for her. The event is for me. So I had a very hard time sneaking out. She was being clever in getting me there. She wasn't being authentic. And in my mind, because she's being a bit conniving, a bit clever, a bit superficial, I'm thinking she clearly has more to gain out of this than I do. She has more to gain out of me signing up with Landmark than I do. And if she has more to gain than I do, then she needs to buy my ticket for me. I am not going, right? So it really created doubt in my mind about what was going on, what she was doing, what this group was all about, right? And so now I'm suspicious. Like, I ain't going. Forget that. And then I went to Tony Robbins' event. And I'm standing in line to check in, and there are these two guys in front of me. And one of the guys was like, man, have you heard of Landmark? And the other guy's like, no. And the first guy's like, you need to go. It is life-changing. You need to go. And so because I overheard this conversation in front of me, they weren't talking to me, but because I overheard it and the guy said it's life-changing, now I'm on board. I'm on board with these strangers, but I'm not on board with my friend because she was being clever. She was being conniving. She wasn't being authentic. And that created a sense of suspiciousness in me. I was confused about who really had something to gain. So if you're in the business of servicing someone else, and really we all are in some area of our lives, and you are not showing up authentically, and that person is missing the opportunity to be a part of something that could potentially be life-changing because you're being clever, you're really doing them a disservice. If I hadn't overheard these guys who were strangers at this other event, I would still be like, I ain't going to that. Right? She was doing me a disservice by being clever, by not being authentic. So you want to be authentic. She was powerless in convincing me of the value of this organization for me and for whomever else, right? Because she wasn't being real. Real recognized real. But these other guys were way more powerful and they weren't even talking to me. Don't be clever, be authentic. My fourth principle is suspend your own personal agenda. Suspend your own personal agenda. It's really hard to be powerful when you're being selfish. It's really hard to be powerful when you're being selfish. Think about the most powerful people you know. Your parents, your boss, your coworkers. What makes them powerful? Is it because they're pushing their personal agenda on you? Is that why they're powerful? Or are they powerful because they're trying to make you powerful? because they're trying to serve your agenda. Powerful people don't lead with their own personal agenda. And sometimes they don't even have a personal agenda. Sometimes the agenda of the powerful person is so intertwined with the agenda of the business or the family or the company or the team that there's no separation. They're all the same. But powerful people don't lead with their own personal agenda. I tried to do network marketing once. And the way that I was taught to do it is to go to the grocery store or when I'm shopping to find someone who could be a good customer and then walk up to them and compliment them. And I had a really hard time with that. And I said to my upline, I can't do that. I feel like the only reason why I'm talking to this person is because I'm trying to sell them something. And she's like, no. You want to find a genuine compliment. If you don't really like their purse, don't say that. Just say what you really like. But I'm like, but I still am searching high and low for something to compliment them on because I want to talk to them and to sell them some product, right? I couldn't do it because I had an agenda and I didn't know how to service someone without leading with my own personal agenda. And I felt insecure and goofy. I felt insecure and goofy. And so that gig did not work out for me because I'm not powerful if I feel goofy and insecure. I'm not powerful if I'm approaching strangers because I have an agenda. They don't care about my agenda. They're just trying to shop. So that didn't work out for me. When you're pushing your own agenda, trying to get promoted, trying to start a business, trying to do network marketing, you're being manipulative and you're being contrived. You're being inauthentic, and that makes you powerless. It makes you powerless. And I know that this sounds super counterintuitive. You're probably thinking, well, Charlene, of course I have an agenda. Of course I want to sell my product or service. Of course I want my kids to do their homework. Of course I want my husband to help me around the house. Or of course I want my team to move towards the goals that we set out at the beginning of the year. Of course I have an agenda. It sounds counterintuitive. But I'm just telling you, you can't lead with your agenda because the truth of the matter is that people don't care about your agenda. And you're not being powerful by pushing something on people that they don't care about. You don't lead with your agenda. Think about it like, have you ever wanted to have a conversation with someone like your husband or your spouse or someone, and so you play out in your head how this conversation is going to go, right? You say, well, I'm going to say this, and then he's going to say that, and then I'm going to say this, and then he's going to feel guilty, and he's going to apologize, and then I'm going to say this, and then we're going to make up and go have dinner, and he's going to pay for it, right? You play this movie scene out in your mind about how this is going to play out. And then you show up to the movie scene in real life, and you say your lines. You say what scenario you played out in your head. But he doesn't say his lines. He's off script. So what you were hoping to get out of it, the agenda that you went into it wanting to get out of it, gets blown up because they didn't get the script. They didn't say their lines, right? 99% of the time when you play a scenario out in your head and then you go in real life and try to replicate that scenario, it doesn't work out because the other person has their own agenda. They don't care about your agenda. And a lot of times what happens is when people feel like you're trying to manipulate them or coerce them into doing or saying something, they dig their heels in, right? They could be dead wrong, but they're going to dig their heels in now that you've come up to them trying to coerce them into admitting guilt or whatever, right? It's not effective. It's powerless to try to lead with your own personal agenda. You have to lead with their agenda. You have to lead with authenticity, because when you start mapping out this scenario and this movie script in your head, you're not being authentic. You're trying to be clever. You're trying to think, what can I do? What can I say to get them to do what I want them to do and say? What can I do to get them to fulfill my agenda? That's not being authentic. That's being manipulative, right? So it just doesn't ever work. It makes you powerless. Suspend your own personal agenda to be powerful. And the other thing that powerful people do, when they do have an agenda, when they do have something that they want to get out of it, they just come straight out and say it, like put it on the table and not try to coerce anyone into following along with this hidden agenda, right? And so it's not even just the fact of having an agenda. It's that a lot of times the agenda is hidden. So powerful people, if they're going to lead with their agenda, they're 100% honest and authentic about it, and they don't beat around the bush. They just put it on the table. Here's what I'm hoping to get out of this. Control yourself. Number 5, control yourself. A lot of times we want to control other people. You think that you're powerful by controlling other people, but that isn't powerful. Controlling other people to me is this great illusion, right? Like you think that you're having control over them, but you don't. It's kind of like that movie Friday where Smokey's like, when Debo comes around, he tells me to shut up and I be quiet. But when he leave, I'll be talking again, right? So you're trying to have control over someone or somebody, and in your presence, maybe they're faking it. They're making you think that you're in control. But when you leave, they be talking again. They be doing what they want to do again. It's a false illusion. Being powerful is controlling yourself. It's controlling your emotions. It's controlling your tongue. It's controlling your habits. It's controlling your behavior. It's controlling your thoughts. It's controlling your doubts. Controlling yourself is powerful. Having discipline is powerful. Trying to control other people makes you powerless because you just can't do it. You just can't do it. I often say that people think that power is like energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It has to be transferred. And so there are some people who are walking around trying to transfer other people's energy to them or power to themselves, right? So if I take your power, I get a little more power. And I take your power, I get a little more power. And that's where this control thing comes from. And this competitiveness comes from, because I think that I get to take your power from you. But you can't. You can't take other people's power from them. They might diminish their power. You might influence them to diminish or suppress their power, but you can never take their power from them. So powerful people know that their power comes from inside themselves, not from any other person. And so when you want to feel more powerful, you dig in to yourself. You dig inside of you. You pull out your power. You pull out your authenticity. You pull out your self-control. You pull out your service to other people. That's how you be powerful. You don't go try to get it from other people. You know all the power that you need is already within inside of you. Number 6, be present. You can't be powerful if you're not present. If you're in your own head about what's going on, or what are they thinking about me, or what do I think about them, it's very hard to be powerful, because either you're sitting in a place of self-doubt and self-pity and insecurity, right? What are they thinking about me? I don't belong here. Am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Right? You're not powerful if you have those thoughts running through your head. And on the flip side, if you're not present and you're thinking about the situation and the people at the table, then you're thinking, oh, I'm better than them. Oh, they don't belong here. What am I doing around these people? Right? And so either way it goes, you can't be powerful like that. When you're in your head, you're not being powerful. You're being powerless. Powerful people are present people. You're present in your own life. You show up in your own life. And that makes you powerful. The 7th principle for how to be powerful is you own your results. You own your own results. Time doesn't own your results. Money doesn't own your results. Your spouse doesn't own your results. Your boss doesn't own your results. Your customers doesn't own your results. You own your own results. Powerful people own their own results. There's a meme going around on Facebook showing people who are successful today where they were in their 20s, right? And so it's like, well, Oprah was fired in her 20s. Mark Cuban was fired in his 20s and had 5 roommates. And J.K. Rowling was homeless or poor in her 20s. So people were fired, they were broke, but they owned their own results. There are other people who were fired and they just didn't make anything out of it. So it's not what happens to you, it's what ownership you take over what has happened to you. Powerful people own their results. A lot of times people are giving up way too soon and they're blaming their results on time or money or their professor or their boss, right? Like thinking about college. If it takes 4 years to get a degree for most people and you go to school for 3 years and 1 semester, you're not going to have a degree. You're not going to have a degree. It doesn't matter. You have to stay in it long enough to make it work. And if you quit too soon, then it just doesn't work out. And you might say, well, my professor was too hard. He failed me for no reason. But you have to own your own results. And it's the same thing with everything in life, right? If you give up too soon, then you have just essentially dropped out on your dreams. You're a dream dropout. You're a vision dropout. A goal dropout. Powerful people own their own results. They don't drop out. They don't give up. They don't blame their professor. They don't stop short of goal. If goal is 4 years, then they don't stop short of that. So those are my 7 principles on how to be powerful. To recap, you know who you are. You know what your strengths are. You know what your gifts are. And you bring those to the table every single time. You have good character. You treat people right. You're trustworthy. You're honorable. You're authentic. You suspend your own personal agenda. You control yourself. Control your habits. Control your thoughts. You're present. And you own your results. That is how you be powerful. I wanted to end with 2 closing thoughts. So I've said a lot about manipulating things and contriving things, and I don't want you to walk away thinking that you should not create your own opportunities. I am a huge proponent of creating your own opportunities. I believe in purposefully or strategically bumping into someone, right? So you can totally set yourself up to be successful. You can totally set yourself up to be in the right place at the right time around the right people. If you want to be a part of this circle, or you want to know this person better, or you want to connect with this guy who has this job, and maybe you've been calling and emailing and they're ignoring you because they don't know you. And so you want to set up a scenario because you know that they like to hang out at Pizza Hut, right? Like, I'm not saying that you cannot contrive or manipulate the atmosphere or the environment in which to be powerful, right? Because being at the right place at the right time, setting yourself up for success is you owning your results. That's being powerful. You can totally do that. But what you can't do is to be manipulative and conniving and trying to contrive a relationship, right? You can't communicate from that base point. You understand? So don't walk away thinking that you should never try to get an environment conducive to helping you be powerful in place. You can. You just can't go approach people and communicate with people and show up in a place of manipulation or your own personal agenda. So totally purposefully bump into people as needed, strategically set up an environment or an atmosphere for you to be successful as needed. I didn't want you to walk away thinking that I was advising against that. The second thing that I wanted to also close with is, learning from other people is one of the ways that we can be powerful, right? Like you want to learn how to be effective at business or at your job or in your marriage or spiritually. And so you seek out people who are further along on the journey than you are. And that's smart. That's being powerful, right? But sometimes we take what they are advising us and teaching us and we make it the foundation, right? So it's kind of like a relationship. I say that relationships, the foundation has to be one of trust and respect and honesty and shared values and beliefs and visions. And then you sprinkle on top some romance and some affection and some intimacy. But a lot of times we go wrong in relationships because we've built this thing upside down. We've built it on a foundation of physical intimacy and affection and romance. And then we've tried to sprinkle on top the core values and respect and honesty. And so it blows up in our face, right? So the same thing here, as you're learning and growing and evolving and learning to be more powerful and be more effective and learn the right strategies and techniques to do that, you have to build it the right way. So it's you're the foundation, your authenticity, you knowing who you are, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you believe in, knowing what you want. You're the foundation. And what you're going to learn from other people is the sprinkling on the top. But sometimes we have a tendency to flip that because we think that this is how you be successful. You take this person's advice and you flip it, right? Because success leaves clues. But we make it the foundation. And then we try to sprinkle who we are on top of the rest of it. And that's backwards. That leads to you trying to be clever. That leads to you leading with your own personal agenda, right? So even though you're going to learn from people, you should learn. That's why this podcast exists. But you're still the foundation. Who you are is still the foundation. And the rest of what you're learning is what you're sprinkling on top. And when you keep the right order, then you can be powerful. You can be powerful beyond belief. So that is what I wanted to end with. Those are my 7 strategies for how to be powerful and show up powerfully in your life. Until next time, grow on purpose.
Thanks for listening to the From Caterpillars to Butterflies podcast, your one-stop shop for all things personal growth. For today's show notes and even more tools and resources to help you transform the life you have into the life you love, go to www.fromcaterpillarstobutterflies.com.